You cut the carbs, tracked every single calorie, and you spent hours on the treadmill until your legs felt like lead. Logic says the weight should be falling off. The math says you are in a deficit, but when you look in the mirror, that stubborn layer around your midsection hasn't budged an inch. In fact, it might look softer, more inflamed, and more permanent than ever before. There is a biological reason for this, and it has nothing to do with your discipline or your willpower. It's not about eating less and moving more. You are fighting a war against a hidden survival mechanism that is actively overriding your diet. While you are trying to burn fat, your body is receiving a chemical signal to hoard it. This signal creates a metabolic environment where insulin remains sky high even if you are eating zero sugar. It creates a state where your liver produces its own glucose even if you are strictly keto. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why that belly fat is sticking and, more importantly, how to flip the switch that forces your body to use stored energy as visceral fat. Research shows that this deep fat is chemically different from the fat on your legs. It is densely packed with cortisol receptors. Think of these receptors like high-gain antennas. While the rest of your body might ignore a low-level stress signal, your belly fat picks it up, amplifies it, and reacts. It is biologically wired to be a magnet for cortisol. This creates a terrifying feedback loop. You get stressed, whether from work, lack of sleep, or over-dieting. Your cortisol spikes. Your visceral fat, with its millions of antennas, absorbs that signal and expands. But here's the kicker. As visceral fat grows, it releases its own inflammatory signals that trigger more cortisol. It becomes a self-sustaining factory. The fat tissue itself recruits more stress hormones to ensure its own survival. It feeds on the very thing that is making you miserable. This explains the skinny fat phenomenon, or why you might see someone who eats very little but still holds a significant punch. Their body is in a state of crisis management. When cortisol is chronically elevated, your body enters a preservation mode. It thinks you are in a long-term famine or fleeing a predator. In that state, the last thing it wants to do is burn off its emergency reserves. It locks the doors. Now, you might be thinking, I eat clean so my insulin is low. This is the second part of the trap, and it is where the biology gets fascinating and frustrating. You can eat a diet of pure steak and water, and your blood sugar can still spike. How? Because your liver is an incredible chemical laboratory. When cortisol surges, it sends a command to the liver. We need energy for the fight. The liver responds by manufacturing glucose out of amino acids and other tissues. This process is called gluconeogenesis, literally creating new sugar. So you wake up, you haven't eaten for 12 hours, but you are stressed. Your cortisol climbs, your liver dumps fresh glucose into your bloodstream to fuel a fight that isn't happening. Your pancreas senses this sugar and releases insulin to manage it. Now you have high cortisol and high insulin simultaneously, all while fasting. Since insulin is the master switch that turns off fat burning, you are effectively locked out of losing weight. You are running on sugar that your own body manufactured while your fat stores remain sealed tight. This hormonal chaos is usually driven by 3 specific lifestyle traps that seem healthy on the surface but are actually fueling the fire. The first trap is what I call the endurance paradox. We have been told for decades that to lose weight, we need to move constantly. So you see people pounding the pavement, jogging for an hour, or spending 45 minutes on the elliptical every morning. They are sweating. They are working hard. But biologically, they are signaling a chronic low-grade emergency. Evolutionarily, humans walked long distances to forage, and we sprinted short distances to escape danger or catch prey. We did not jog at a medium pace for an hour every day. When you engage in this chronic medium-intensity cardio, your body perceives it as a long migration without food. It raises cortisol to keep you going. If you do this every day without adequate recovery, that cortisol never comes down. The result is muscle wasting. Cortisol breaks down muscle tissue to convert it into fuel. As you lose muscle, your metabolic rate drops. You burn fewer calories at rest. Simultaneously, that elevated cortisol pushes fat storage directly to the visceral area. You are literally burning up your engine muscle to store more fuel. Belly fat. You become smaller, softer, and metabolically slower. The scale might go down, but your body composition gets worse. Then there is the trap of competitive fasting. Fasting is one of the most powerful tools we have for longevity and cellular repair. It's like a cleaning crew for your body. But imagine sending a cleaning crew into a building that is currently on fire. That is what happens when you combine aggressive fasting with a high-stress lifestyle. If you are sleeping 5 hours a night, rushing through a high-pressure job, and then forcing your body to go 20 or 24 hours without nutrients, you are not resetting your system, you are crashing it. Your body perceives the lack of incoming energy as a famine confirmation. The stress of the fast adds to the stress of your life. The total load exceeds your body's capacity to adapt. Instead of burning fat, your thyroid downregulates, your energy plummets, your hands and feet get cold, and your body clings to that visceral fat because it is the only safety net it has left. You are fighting biology, and biology always wins. The goal of fasting is to lower insulin, but if the stress of the fast raises cortisol enough to trigger that liver glucose dump, you have negated the benefit. You are just starving and stressed. This leads us directly into the third and perhaps most insidious trap, the nocturnal alarm. This is the silent killer of fat loss. You might be in bed for 8 hours, but are you actually in a restorative state? Here's a scenario that might sound familiar. You fall asleep from sheer exhaustion. But then at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., your eyes snap open. You aren't just awake, you are alert. Your mind starts racing about tomorrow's to-do list. You toss and turn, maybe look at the clock, and finally drift back off an hour before your alarm. This isn't just bad sleep. It is a hypoglycemic event. While you sleep, your blood sugar naturally drops. If your metabolic flexibility is poor or your stress is high, it drops too fast. Your brain, which is a glucose hog, senses a threat. It thinks it is running out of fuel, so it slams the panic button. Your adrenal glands fire off a shot of adrenaline and cortisol to wake the liver up and dump glucose. That adrenaline surge is what wakes you up. You are literally experiencing a fight-or-flight response in the middle of your dreams. The tragedy here is twofold. First, you miss out on the deep delta wave sleep where growth hormone is released, your primary anti-aging and fat-burning hormone. Second, you spend your night bathing in cortisol and insulin. Instead of waking up lean and refreshed, you wake up puffy, holding water, and with your belly fat storage turned on high. So, how do we break this prison? How do we convince the body that the war is over so it can finally release the reserves? We have to send safety signals. We need to speak the language of the nervous system. The first solution requires a shift in how you view movement. We need to stop punishing the body and start flushing the system. We've replaced chronic cardio with what I call the metabolic flush, a walk timed immediately after your meals. When you eat, your glucose rises. Usually, the pancreas has to deal with this by shouting with insulin. However, muscle tissue has a unique backdoor for glucose absorption that doesn't require insulin. When you contract a muscle, it can pull sugar directly out of the blood. By taking a brisk 10 to 15-minute walk right after you eat, you mechanically lower your blood sugar. You bypass the need for a massive insulin spike. Less insulin means less signal to store fat. It also aids digestion and lowers post-meal cortisol stress. Next, we address the overnight crisis with a strategic safety anchor before bed, a teaspoon of raw honey, and a pinch of high-quality sea salt. The honey provides a steady stream of liver glycogen, and the salt helps manage fluid balance and lower adrenaline. By preventing the crash, you stay asleep and enter deep restorative stages where growth hormone peaks. We also signal muscles to grow through short bursts of sprinting once or twice a week, short, intense effort followed by full rest boosts, human growth hormone, and counters cortisol. Nutritional timing matters too. If you fast, your eating window must be robust and protein-rich. Protein signals abundance and supports muscle growth while opposing insulin. Finally, the most powerful chemical trigger isn't a supplement. It's oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Practices like genuine gratitude lower cortisol and shift your body out of fight or flight mode. So, let's look at the full picture. You aren't fighting a calorie math problem. You are in time